Hi there, I'm Peter Millard and this is 10 Minute Workshop, where 10 minutes in the workshop is never enough. In the workshop this week, well, we're going to be talking about day rates and the cost of doing business and how you work all that stuff out. It's coming up next. So yeah, less of a workshop, more of a spray room at the moment, but look at that finish. Oh, lovely. More of that in a future video. For now, when I did my pricing up a job video, lots of people asked me about the cost of doing business and how you work out day rates and things. So I thought I'd do a quick follow-on video about how we do that. I'm going to do that with a spreadsheet in front of me. So we're going to go back to the office and do that now. Ooh. Okay, so cost of doing business. What does that actually mean? Well, when I did my previous video on pricing, how to price a job, a lot of people asked me about I discussed day rates and that sort of thing. A lot of people asked me how you go about that, because it's not immediately obvious. I pointed a few people out to general Google search where you can just sort of search for cost of doing business calculators, and they're all very American and they don't necessarily work well with our kind of businesses. So I've had one that I put together for myself for a long time, so I just thought I'd do a quick video running you through it here. So we've got Lenny the laptop up, we've got Chrome up. We just need to make that full screen, and we'll get this up a little bit bigger so you can see in a sec. So it's a very simple spreadsheet. You don't need a spreadsheet to do this. It's just convenient if you do. And basically all we do is we take our fixed annual costs, premises, business rates, parking, vehicle, that sort of thing. We'll go through a list of them, and you divide that by the number of billable days that you expect to do, and that'll give you a sort of an approximate day rate, a minimum. Again, I'm not an accountant. I'm not trying to tell you how to depreciate fixed assets or any of that kind of thing. This is just about listing your outgoings. It's incredibly simple. It's incredibly straightforward. But it does require you to be completely honest. Let's dive into it. Let's have a look at this. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. Fixed annual costs. So we'll go through the list here. These are typical for a one-man band type business. Doesn't have to be woodworking. Could work equally for photography or for any other kind of business where you're either working from home or you might have premises. So first on the top of the list here is premises, whether that's a workshop, your studio, an office, whatever you've got. Again, these are annual costs, so put down how much it costs you annually. So that's rent and rates, all that sort of stuff. Next down would be utilities, so heat and light, gas, water, electric, that kind of thing, an annual cost for that. Next would be phone, so that's either office phone, mobile phone, maybe a percentage of your home phone. Again, your accountant could advise you on that. General office costs, we used to call this print, post and stationery. These days it's probably more like ink, toner and paper, but there'll be a cost for all that kind of stuff. Allow for it. Equipment, so both tools and office. I chatted on the podcast, measuringuppodcast.com, go and check it out, with my co-host Andy. We were just saying generally that if you've got £10,000 worth of tools, well, and they have an average usable life of 5 years, well, that's a couple of £1,000 a year you're going to be spending on tools. So equipment, tools and office, new printer, not a fax machine, but whatever, new computer every few years, all that sort of stuff. You've got to allow a certain amount of cost for that. So include that in. Similarly with repairs. Everything needs maintenance, stuff breaks, stuff needs fixing, so allow something for that. Vehicle, we're going to have a van, whether that's repayments on the vehicle or if you've paid cash for the vehicle and you own it. Again, I'm not trying to tell you how to depreciate those assets. Your accountant will be the best person for that. But you've got ongoing costs like road tax, insurance and fuel, plus repayments if it's leased or if it's on hire purchase or any other kind of finance agreement. You've got travel and parking. Parking cost is one of my highest. I can't always invoice on the cost of parking. Sometimes it's included in the job, sometimes it's not. So allow for that. Travel, sometimes you want to go and take a look at a job, but you don't want to drive there because you don't know what the parking is going to be like, or there's no parking. So maybe you take a cab. Allow something in for that as well. Next on the list, professional development. Sounds a bit fancy schmancy. That's just courses or accreditation. That could be as simple as, well, the one that springs to mind is Corian, solid surface working. You can't buy or use Corian unless you've done the Corian installers course or the Corian fitters course. Or accreditation, there are a similar sort of thing. Certain lock companies don't let you fit their locks until you've done a course to be a certified fitter. That sort of thing. If you do that kind of work, allow for it. Advertising and promotion, whether that's sort of leaflet drops or just having cards printed, a quarterly advert in the parish magazine, or your digital advertising, your digital presence, so your website, all that sort of stuff. That's going to have an ongoing annual cost. Allow something in there for that. Next one is subscriptions and memberships. So trade associations. I'm not a member of any of those, but you might be, or you might be a member of your local chamber of commerce or something. So again, allow something for that. Business insurance. So public liability insurance is the obvious one. If you've got premises, then you'll probably need buildings insurance, tool insurance, that kind of thing. Professional services, accountancy, bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff are the obvious ones. Maybe you've got some legal costs as well in there. If you've taken on premises, you're going to need a solicitor to take a look over the lease or the license or whatever you've got. Subcontract, we all need an extra pair of hands now and then. I don't need it very often, but when I do, it's going to be a cost. So allow something in the schedule for that. Pension contributions, pensions and savings, retirement plans, all that sort of thing. Again, I don't want to get bogged down in tax relief. This is purely your outgoings, so the money that's leaving your account every month. Put down however much that is. And the other thing you've got to allow for as well is the drawings, the salary that you pay yourself. Now, this is before tax. This has nothing to do with tax. This is to do with your outgoings. You pay tax on profits at the end of the year, not on what you draw from the business. It's tempting to underestimate this kind of thing, but we generally start a business or become self-employed to try and improve our financial situation. Not just financial, sometimes it's a personal lifestyle. You want to be able to walk your kids to school a couple of times a week or whatever else. I know I did when my kids were small. But be honest about how much you want to take out of the business in salary. If you basically add all that lot up, you get a slightly scary number, and that gives you effectively the total gross profit that you need to break even. Little time out here, accountants will argue with this notion of gross profit because we haven't included the cost of sales in there. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. I'm ignoring that. Cost of sales are self-eliminating and no more. So basically, you add all that up, and that gives you the total gross profit to break even. And then you divide that's your total costs for the year. You divide that by the number of billable days that you expect to be able to invoice for. Now, it's not going to be 365 days. It's never 365 days. Nobody wants you to work 365 days a year. You don't want to work 365 days a year. Your wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever, doesn't want you to work 365 days a year. There's only 52 weeks of the year, a couple of weeks of bank holidays, public holidays and that kind of thing. That's only 50 working weeks. And if you can bill 4 out of 5 of those days, you're doing really well. So we're basing the total number of billable days on just 200 days a year. Let's put some meat on this on these bones and put some numbers in here. And these are just sort of just plucked out of the air. We've got a couple of £1,000.